You've probably spent most of your life trying to fix something. Your past, your future, other people, yourself. Every quiet moment feels like a problem to solve. Every setback feels like a personal failure. Every silence feels like something's wrong. And because of that, you've forgotten what it means to just let things be. To let a moment exist without dissecting it. To let people have their emotions without taking them on as your responsibility. To let life unfold without constantly reaching into the future, trying to speed it up or steer it your way. But the truth is, most of the pain you feel isn't from the moment itself. It's from the resistance, that mental grip you keep on everything, trying to make it go faster, smoother, easier. That habit of always asking, "What should I do?" instead of, "What if I just let this be what it is?" And I get it. Letting go sounds passive, like giving up, like doing nothing. But it's not. Letting something be isn't weak. It's incredibly strong because it requires you to stop managing life with fear and start trusting that things can actually unfold without your constant intervention. You don't realize how tightly you've been holding everything until you stop. Until you let one small thing go and feel the weight in your chest begin to lift. Until you stop explaining yourself to people who never actually listened. Until you stop trying to impress, perform, or prove, and just exist as you are in this moment. And for the first time in years, it feels light. Not because life is suddenly perfect, but because you're no longer in a constant fight with it. You've stopped rewriting the past in your head. You've stopped running 10 miles ahead in your mind. You've stopped obsessing over what other people think or what might happen next. You're just here, and somehow everything feels easier. You've been trained to believe that ease is suspicious, that if it's not hard, it's not real. That struggle equals worth. And if you're not constantly pushing, fixing, optimizing, you're falling behind. But that belief system, that's not ambition. That's anxiety disguised as productivity. And it's everywhere. You check your phone first thing in the morning, not because you're excited, but because your nervous system is wired to expect a problem. You plan every hour of your day down to the minute, not because you're disciplined, but because being still makes you feel unsafe. You overthink every conversation, every text, every glance, not because anything is wrong, but because quiet makes your mind race. You've been living like life is a machine you have to control with constant micro-adjustments. But life isn't a machine. It's a rhythm. And you're meant to flow with it, not fight it every step of the way. The truth is, most of what you're trying to control would actually correct itself if you stopped interfering so much. That relationship you keep over-explaining yourself in, maybe it's not broken. Maybe it just needs space to breathe. That dream you've been forcing into a rigid blueprint, maybe it's already trying to unfold, just not in the way you imagined. That emotion you keep suppressing and fixing with routines, with podcasts, with quotes, with distractions. Maybe it doesn't need to be solved. Maybe it just needs to be felt and left alone. But no one teaches us that. We're taught to attack every feeling like it's a problem, to micromanage every part of life like it owes us a perfect outcome. But life doesn't work like that. Sometimes it opens up when you stop knocking. Sometimes things align when you stop chasing. Sometimes the clarity you've been waiting for only arrives after you stop demanding answers. Letting it be doesn't mean giving up. It means stepping out of the way. It means saying, "I've done what I can, and now I let this unfold in whatever way it needs to." It means trusting that your worth isn't attached to how busy, how productive, or how in control you seem. And that's where the real peace lives, not in mastering life, but in learning how to stand still without panicking. You start to realize something powerful once you stop forcing everything. Life doesn't need your tight grip to move. It just needs your presence, not your panic, not your strategy, not your perfect plan. Just you, calm, open, awake. But presence feels unfamiliar when you've spent years in survival mode. You've trained yourself to fix before you feel, to react before you reflect. So when there's nothing to fix, your mind searches for problems just to feel safe again. That's the addiction, not to chaos, but to control, to always being the one who handles it, to making sure nothing slips through the cracks, even if it means you keep falling into them. But letting go, letting it be, means acknowledging that maybe the cracks don't need to be sealed. Maybe they're openings for something else to come through, a new direction, a new self, a new peace that doesn't need explanation. Think about how much life you've missed because you were too busy rehearsing for the next thing. How many conversations you half experienced because you were scripting the next reply in your head. How many sunsets, silences, and slow mornings slipped past you while you were somewhere else mentally, trying to speed time up or control how things would unfold. Letting it be brings you back into the moment, back into your body, back into a version of you that doesn't need to chase life because life is no longer running from you. And here's where it gets even deeper. When you stop interfering, people around you start to shift too. Not because you told them to, but because your energy isn't feeding the dysfunction anymore. You're no longer trying to fix them, prove something, explain yourself, or hold it all together. You're just being calm, grounded, real. And that stillness, it's louder than any performance ever was. You become the quiet in the storm, the signal in the static, the reminder to yourself and to everyone around you that peace doesn't mean control. It means trust. And trust isn't always loud or confident. Sometimes it's trembling. Sometimes it's sitting in the uncertainty and choosing not to react. Not because you're indifferent, but because you finally made peace with not needing to manage every outcome. That's the shift, and it changes everything. Not because you worked harder, but because you finally stopped interrupting the process. Most people don't realize how much tension they carry until they try to sit still, not just physically, but mentally. Try sitting for 5 minutes with no distractions, no scrolling, no fixing, just you. You'll feel it. That twitch in the brain, the urge to check, the impulse to manage, that's not boredom. That's a nervous system that's forgotten how to just exist. You've been in reaction mode for so long that stillness feels like something's wrong, like you're falling behind, like you should be doing something, like peace is suspicious because struggle has become your normal. But here's the truth that rarely gets said. Peace is not the reward for finishing everything. It's the starting point for actually living. And to access that peace, you have to break the habit of always needing to understand, solve, label, or control every part of your life. Because clarity doesn't always come through effort. Sometimes it only arrives after surrender. Not dramatic, giving up surrender, just quiet acceptance. That this is where I am. That this might not be what I planned, but it's what's here, and I'll stop fighting it for now. Letting it be doesn't mean you lack direction. It means you're wise enough to know that forcing something too early often ruins what could have grown naturally. Look at anything in nature. Trees don't force themselves to bloom. Rivers don't control their direction. They follow the path of least resistance. And yet somehow, everything finds its way. You're not separate from that wisdom. You're not built to sprint through every season like nothing matters except the outcome. You are not built to explain your purpose, your path, or your emotions just so they can be accepted. Letting go is the decision to finally meet life where it is instead of trying to drag it to where your expectations think it should be. You're not here to control the current. You're here to learn how to float, to trust the direction even when you can't see the end. And maybe, for once, instead of chasing the next solution, the next improvement, the next version of yourself, you just breathe. Not because you've given up, but because you finally trust that the moment you stop trying so hard, life meets you halfway. There's something strange that happens when you stop trying to control everything. You begin to see things you were blind to before, not because they weren't there, but because your mind was so busy managing, predicting, planning, preparing, that you missed what was right in front of you. You couldn't feel the peace in the room. You couldn't hear the softness in someone's voice. You couldn't taste the stillness of a quiet morning because your attention was wired toward what could go wrong, what needs fixing, what isn't perfect yet. Letting it be doesn't just make life easier, it makes it visible. You start noticing how much beauty is buried under the noise, how many little moments you've bulldozed through in the name of being productive or in control. And it's not your fault. We're conditioned for this, to treat rest like weakness, to treat letting go like failure, to treat life like a ladder we constantly have to climb, even if we're too tired to keep going. But what if the goal was never to reach higher, but to sink deeper, deeper into the now, deeper into your body, deeper into the parts of yourself that don't need proving or fixing, just listening? Most people try to improve their life by adding more goals, more structure, more motivation. But maybe the upgrade is in subtraction. What happens when you stop performing in conversations and just speak honestly? What happens when you stop planning 5 steps ahead and actually live the one you're in? What happens when you stop trying to change people and just meet them where they are, or walk away if you can't? Letting go isn't about becoming passive. It's about becoming anchored. You're no longer pulled in 100 emotional directions, no longer reacting to every external change, no longer depending on how others respond to decide how you feel about yourself. You become steady, not because everything around you is perfect, but because you've stopped making your peace dependent on it. And in that steadiness, you start to heal, not through force, not through effort, but through permission. The quiet decision to stop swimming upstream in every area of your life. Because maybe life isn't meant to be solved like a puzzle. Maybe it's meant to be felt like music. And some songs only make sense when you stop skipping ahead. Letting go isn't always loud. It's not always a big decision or a sudden breakthrough. Sometimes it's subtle, almost unnoticeable at first. Just a tiny shift inside you. A breath, a pause. You stop chasing the conversation. You don't check your phone right away. You hear the voice in your head saying, "Say something," and instead, you don't. And for the first time, silence doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like space, like you finally gave yourself a few seconds of your own attention. You begin to realize how much of your life has been spent anticipating how someone might react, how things might unfold, how to soften your truth so it doesn't make anyone else uncomfortable. But living that way is like holding your breath in every room you enter. And eventually, you forget what it feels like to fully exhale. Letting go is the exhale. It's the moment you stop editing every sentence before you speak. It's walking into a space and not reading everyone's energy before checking in with your own. It's letting people misunderstand you without chasing them down with explanations. It's allowing discomfort without immediately trying to fix it. Because there's peace in not knowing. There's peace in not answering right away. There's peace in not rushing to make everything okay just to avoid tension. And when you start living like that, just a little at a time, the world doesn't fall apart. You realize you don't lose anything real by letting things be. In fact, you start gaining back the pieces of yourself you gave away, for approval, for control, for comfort. You stop begging life to cooperate with your plans and start trusting that maybe, just maybe, life knows something you don't. That the detour isn't punishment. That the delay isn't a mistake. That the silence isn't empty. It's sacred. Letting it be means you stop interrupting the very process that's trying to unfold. You stop judging the chapter you're in just because it doesn't look like someone else's. You stop carrying every emotion like it's a crisis that needs fixing. And slowly, you begin to breathe differently. You move slower, but with more purpose. You say less, but it means more. You give yourself space, and in that space, you come back to yourself. Not a better version, not a more productive version, just the real one, the one that never needed fixing. Only permission to exist without pressure. You don't have to fix anything right now. You don't have to rush into action. You don't even have to figure it all out. Just let this moment breathe. Let it be. Because maybe your next chapter doesn't start with effort. Maybe it starts with permission. Permission to pause. Permission to stop controlling. Permission to stop turning your life into a project and start letting it be your home. So, if this message hits something real in you, don't just click away. Type it out. Say it. Make it yours. I'm learning. Drop that in the comments, not for the algorithm, but as a signal to yourself, a quiet promise. And if you want more of these spaces, reminders that you're allowed to be soft, still, and honest with yourself, subscribe. No hype, no pressure, just truth, just you, just this.